Do you ever think about, because your stuff is released on the World Wide Web, so there could be some kid in LA listening to it. Do you ever think about that side of thing, that, you know, as a kid you were listening to someone who produced music somewhere in a different part of the world, and now you're doing the same thing, and the potential impact for that kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What would your message be to that person if you were giving a message?
Just basically what I just said to you, like, find what you love.
Yeah.
And like, be true and honest to yourself, and understand that you just have to persevere. And I listen to people like David, I think his name's David Goggins, right? Joe Rogan said he had crazy eyes, but he's very inspirational. If people around you are acting in a negative manner, then fuck, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
You know, because I saw an article the other day. This American expat was saying the thing he hates about Australia is that Australians will get drunk with you. They'll do drugs with you. But as soon as you do something a bit different to push yourself, mate, you're on your own.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is that tall poppy Australian attitude.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, like, I've grown up with a chip on my shoulder thinking that a lot of incidents were racism. No, not in every case. In a lot of cases, it's what I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
You know? So, especially in this country, I think if you drive and you push for something, if you love something in your heart, you just go for it. And if the people immediately around you aren't acting in a cohesive way, that's okay. Just keep doing it. And because of that energy and that persistence, in time, you will be surrounded by the right people. You just have to push through. You have to believe in yourself. And if you want to be an artist, unfortunately, you have to have a ridiculous amount of self-belief. And that doesn't mean thinking that you're better than everyone else or being some narcissistic prick. It means being so creatively excited about what's ahead of you that you go and find the skills that you need from other people or from yourself. You're that determined to go dig up and find those skills because you're happy doing it yourself and you're willing to persevere with learning those things. That's what it's about. Like, go do it and push yourself. You know what I mean? Because I haven't made a heap of money from this at all, but life is so much more than just about having a job, especially if you're a creative spirit. You need to keep nurturing that and keep expressing yourself, because that's what makes you tick and that's what makes you really happy. And I can't speak for anyone else, but people like Jordan Peterson talk about this stuff all the time, right? He's got these YouTube clips talking about how it's difficult for creative people to become, you know, monetarily rewarded, how to make a living out of it. And I, from just life experience and understanding other people's stories, he's on the money, mate. He's right.
Yeah.
So with that knowledge, I'm trying to, you know, not break that cycle, but, you know, we're living in a different world. We don't have to sign contracts with people, and I don't need people to tell me that I'm good and blow smoke up my ass or some label. You know, we don't have to do that stuff, and that's a good attitude to have. What I'm saying is, you kind of have to have so much self-belief, because that's what you need to create something from nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if you need to also exist in the normal world, you can't make excuses for how you are, because that's who you are. But you also have to deal with that tall poppy syndrome and the politics of everyday work situations, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you kind of have to find a balance within yourself. But you have to embrace that part of your personality that feels like you can achieve these things. Why do you feel that you can achieve these things? Because you can.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why. And you just have to do that.
I think I probably know the answers. Is there something, let's say now well, we went with the urban lifestyle. For those of the audience who don't know this, there's a thing called a tape.
I'll flash this on screen.
We put it to tape. We even basically had to remember cutting out the inserts for the tape itself.
Yeah, we all did that. Covers and stickers.
Did all that kind of stuff. Is there something that you would say to your younger self that you think would have been valuable at the time? Or do you think that the way that you approach urban lifestyle is any different from what you do now?
Good question. I don't think I approach anything any differently than I did then, only just a more mature version of myself. Things are just more well thought through. I'm still as excited about what I'm doing now as I did then. But with urban lifestyle, playing bass was so new, so that was so overwhelming. It was me learning how to play bass, how to come up with the bass lines that were already in my head, how to make them comfortable under my fingers, how to get it to fit with what you guys were doing, understanding what you guys were talking about, and getting it to fit. So it was quite overwhelming. Whereas I've come back to hip hop after playing in cover bands, and I've got a much better not a complete understanding, but a much better understanding, a foundation of music from a conventional side of playing in different styles of music. So when I've come back to hip hop, I'm recharged and excited because I always loved the fact that sample based music was like a collage, nicking other bits.
Yeah.
And I've always liked that. And it always excited me, and it's the only genre that I feel comfortable in to create in. I feel adequately equipped to make, so that's why I'm happy about. Is it different? No, not really. What would I tell my younger self? You know what? Nothing, because I think in hindsight, what I'm grateful about my creative attitude is that I've always had an I don't know attitude. I did then and I still do now, meaning try to keep open-minded. I don't think I've approached anything in a really rigid manner because I knew that I didn't know what I was doing. And I still kind of feel that way while I'm arming myself with the right knowledge to do a better job next time. I'm better at doing what I did back then, obviously, because we paid, engineers, or we didn't actually. Luckily, Glenn knew Dave McEwen. So
I was going to say, just to backtrack a bit in terms of, we talked about how in a kind of monetary sense we weren't successful with our music, but Dave probably, in terms of that, who wasn't in the band but was an engineer, has actually had that career. And he persevered, and he's been involved with some pretty big names in the industry. And it's interesting, I think, and it might be wrong, but was it he worked with The Streets?
Yes,
which is an interesting one because The Streets is in UK hip hop.
Yes,
and it's interesting that if he was actually here to kind of go, the experience of recording with us. Did he bring that in any way to his other work?
Oh.
So, I'm not saying, he owes, we owe him or he owes us with what's going on. But it's interesting to say that from that experience, there was somebody who actually went on, and had that kind of success in the music industry. And I also wanted to track back because you were saying about the perseverance. Would the perseverance have made a difference for us in urban lifestyle? It's a kind of question.
If we persevered, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Because I'm now kind of answering my own question, because I think the thing for me now, just reflecting on it, I don't think it would have, because unless we kept the core people together, that was the magic of urban lifestyle, I think. We could have got another singer.
It was.
We could have got somebody else. But it was just one of those creativity things. It's
Yes.
just the people at that time
Yes.
was the magic.
Yes.
It wasn't one person, or it wasn't like a writing team. It was
Yeah, it was all of us.
all of us
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
So that kind of answers my question. It's like, and you can navel gaze forever and ever and thinking maybe if we continued on, but would we have had that, potential
Well,
success? And I suppose now, like coming to later on in my life, success for me now wouldn't have been about the kind of, millions of dollars and the Ferrari. Musically now, success would have been, oh, okay, I have a musical career based around holy music. So that would have been, looking back, that's something that as I said at the beginning of this, is like, that's the regret that I didn't have that opportunity. But like I said, going back again, it wouldn't have worked with that band because it was about the band. So even if we had persevered, it's about all the stuff that comes with working with people. Because it would be about how do we manage it so everyone doesn't go their own ways.
but that's the age-old question, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's why all of those famous bands that we've all got
Yeah,
in our
fuck
record
you,
collections, that's why they didn't like
Yoko
us,
Ono, yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, we had our own issues. There's no need to bring all that stuff up because it's pointless, right? We had our own personality issues, clashes. I mean, that's normal. So yeah, I know what you're saying. I personally don't feel any regret. I don't look at it that way or any disappointment because after that Beautiful Human Zoo recording, which was the peak and the best thing, after our singer left, we tried to do another release after that, and I think the music on that was far better than Beautiful Human Zoo, but the singing sucked because it was England, right? And the ideas and the melodies were all there, and they were all that was good. Glenn's and my ideas, just that Glenn and I are not singers, right? So I was embarrassed for that reason. But I think musically it was more mature and it was better in a short period of time. So I agree with you. There was no real. It was difficult to. In hindsight, you can't even say how would we have gone if we'd persevered, because perseverance means having the energy to look for another singer, and they would have just taken it in another direction, and it could have been fine, and it could have been in another direction. We don't know in hindsight, right? But at the same time, I think we were at the age where all of us, Glenn was taking off anyway to go to Karratha, and he was getting, his life was changing with Leanne, and all of us were looking at what we're going to do with our lives. We're just finishing our educations, tertiary education. That's the age we were at.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was working. We all were. So I think it was a great experience, as I see it, for me. But I don't think we had the maturity I don't think we had the maturity and the right headspace to know how to persevere with it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, I suppose. I mean, like, I'm just thinking about it now. The fact that I think that information about the people were interested in our music, I wasn't aware of that at the time. It was only afterwards. And it would have been interesting, just from, as in navel gazing, whether, that whole interest in music, if that had happened to us and we knew about it, whether that would have changed any of our minds. But I think you get into that complexity, then I think, it's probably not good to think back and think,
No,
well,
it's not.
I
agree with you.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It was an enjoyable time.
Yeah.
And it was, I have vivid memories. It was, we did pretty well an album in 2 days.
Yeah.
Sleeping on the couch.
Yeah. We stayed there, did we?
We stayed, yeah. We basically stayed there.
The upper room.
Shout out to
Park music.
Ex girlfriend who brought in food for us because we didn't actually leave. So it definitely was
Your ex-girlfriend.
Yes, she brought in pizza.
Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, so good on you, Michelle.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely an experience. And I suppose it's like that. It's you're talking about this whole thing about producing something and releasing it and then it having its life on its own. And I suppose that's what Beautiful Human Zoo is that it's released. It is what it is. It has a life of its own.
Yes.
It's died or not. Maybe it's lived on in, for us. Who knows? There may be someone who's got a dusty tape of it somewhere going, I wonder what ever happened to those guys or that band type of thing. But it is what it is. It had its life and, we've moved on. So with your music now, so you're kind of talking about the whole reality of producing music. So is it, maybe to paraphrase, being able to still earn a living, do what you like, and being able to produce music? People talk about work-life balances. How important do you feel for your own mental health well-being that you can have that? Because you could still be the kind of artist that's making no money, but producing music, but
right.
Being able to find that balance and say, yes, I can still produce music, but I've still got a day job. So how important is that for someone who might be listening to this and go, okay, how do I do I have to totally dig in and go, that's it, I'm going to go on a dole for the next 5 years? Or is this a nice way of going, look, I can still produce my music, but I still need a day job?
Okay. It took me a little while to understand what you were saying. All right. In a way, is it too much of a compromise? Is what I'm doing a good way to find a balance?
Yes, yeah.
Or, hang on, I want to be a muso, so I'm going to go all in and drop everything. No, I think if you do that, because I've had a graphic design business, working from home around late 2000, right? And then I started doing gigs again after that. I was in a position of desperation, so I've got that feeling of everything depends on this. And that might be a good headspace to put yourself into if you're going to be creating. But the reality of it is it's quite a long time between creating something, the inception of creating something, and then you getting paid for it. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a quick process. So for good mental health being, for me, having balance is making sure that I've got a good, stable job that I can be as happy as I can. No one is completely happy with their day jobs, but something that brings the money in so you got a roof over your head and you can eat and function in the community and do something good. That's what a job is.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't even matter what the hell it is. Just take pride in yourself and just do it well. Because if you do it well, you'll always be looked upon as being the one that fixes that problem. And that's a cool place to be, regardless of what that job is. If you're that person, that's how you command respect from people. It doesn't even matter what it is, Yeah. Anyway, when you got that down, you've got time. Oh, I'm so tired because I've got a day job. Nah, mate. If you want to do something, you'll make the time. Because you can't, there's no point going through life going, oh, I really wanted to do this and I didn't do it. The thing is, if you didn't do it, it's because you didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Is that harsh? Is that tough? Is that so black and white? It's truth, mate. If you don't do it, it's because you didn't want to do it. It's that simple. And I don't see the point of I never saw the point of putting myself in that position where, maybe because I was brought up, a bit conservative and just always having a day job. I've not always had a day job. Like I said, I've worked for myself. I think it's just, I don't look at it as being too much of a compromise because I'm being realistic. For me specifically, making hip-hop music, The lyrics are, like I said, just what is at the top of my head. I know that I have controversial subjects, but I like creating art for art's sake. But I'm realistic. Like, I can't make something and then go out on Facebook and go, hey, do you like my music?
Yeah.
I can't do that, because you're either going to like it or you're not. I'm not going to shove it in your face because it's controversial to start with, and I don't want to be that person that does that. I like making it, but in public, I just want to be cohesive and I just want to get on. I don't want to stand on some pedestal and shout my opinion. You know, I believe in freedom of speech and freedom of thought. You can think any damn thing you want, which means we don't have to have a conversation about anything, because you can think what you like.
Yeah.
So can I. I also believe in freedom of speech, which is why I like doing raps.
So what did Public Enemy say to you that other hip hop acts or other acts weren't saying?
Okay, at the time, and you know, I was too young to really give a shit about politics at all, but I got the tone of it. I understood that it was a whole bunch of information that I wasn't receiving anywhere else. I knew it was the word on the street. I knew it was well read. I knew it came from books. I knew it was about black history. I knew it went against the grain of the mainstream. I knew it was important to these people. You could hear all this in their voices.
Yeah.
And the music, you know, wasn't melodic. It wasn't nice. It was infectious. It was in your face. It was you know, so politically charged, and they had so much to say. It was very important for them to get all this stuff across, and just the way it was said, and just the energy in it. Like it was. I could tell that the production style wasn't trying to be nice. It had a certain energy, and admittedly, for a time there, it brought out a lot of not anger in me that I directed towards people, but anger that I put into my work, because I was always doing my graphic design work, and I was always doing my graphic design work while listening to Public Enemy, and I'd honed that skill of putting frustration and anger into what I was doing, and I'd learned to do that at a younger age. Breaking, you hear that story of, you know, breaking comes from, you know, fights, that cliche, you know, story. Well, I kind of took that on board, and I understood that, because I was dealing with a lot of race issues, and I didn't know how to have an outlet, and I did that with breaking, right?
Yeah.
And then anyway, I still did that with music. You know, we were talking about that, and I think that's what I've done my whole life, really. I've been quite an angry person, you know, like growing up, and I think that I've always known how to take that energy and put it into creative things, to make it, rather than, because being a creative person is more creative rather than destructive.
Yeah.
You know, I feel good because I've been able to do those things and come up with what I still is music that I'm proud of, you know? But from Public Enemy, I could just tell that it was more than just everything else I'd heard, you know? It was powerful, not just the energy of it, but the intent, you know? It was well thought out. It was nothing I'd heard before. It was powerful in so many ways that were so different that I couldn't comprehend. I needed to hear it again and again. But I remember we had a stereo that was buggered, right? And I was playing this vinyl. And I used to start my graphic design course late one day of the week. It was later one day. I was doing my work and the stereo kept on dying. And I went back in to start the stereo. I have to just hit the top. You know those glass top ones?
Yeah,
you open with the turntable on the top. And it kept on going off. And I'd keep going back. And each time I smashed it harder. And the last time I put my hand through the glass top and I was bleeding. And I realised that this music was making me that tense. It was the reason why my hand was bleeding, and I'd buggered up my dad's stereo. But I also realised that energy was what I was drawing from to get my work done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I've done my whole life. That's why I talk so highly about Public Enemy, because it wasn't until much later that I started really analysing those lyrics. And I've read, books about those guys like Don't Rhyme for the Sake of Riddling. Great book. I highly recommend it because I'm very influenced by that Bomb Squad style of production. You may not hear it in our stuff, but I'm trying to absorb more of that feel.
They probably done. I'm sure other people did it, but they were, from my memory, one of the first ones to mix hip hop with metal. The track "Bring the Noise."
But even their first album, Yo Bum Ross the Show, that's lots of rock guitar on there. But you're talking about Bring the Noise off the It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back album. Yeah. Yep. Even early Run DMC, who are the ones that are noted for bringing the rock to rap. If you check all of their early interviews or whatever, their tour buses, they were always saying when they were on buses doing those tours with LL Cool J, all they were listening to, well, not all, but mostly they were listening to was Public Enemy. That's where I first heard of Public Enemy. I'm first gen hip hop, so I feel like we're the first generation to really have been exposed to electronic music as well as, conventional style music, rock music, jazz, funk, and all, guitar based, keyboard based music. So the way I work is a mixture of all of those things. I'm reading a book actually at the moment on Dilla called Dilla Time, and he's talking about the birth of drum machines and stuff. Anyway, I'll talk about that. So I'm learning about the artists that mix those things together. They're talking about how Prince is that way as well. Like he would always use a drum machine, but he would mix it with live instruments. And that kind of thing. I'm excited about doing that stuff. At the same time, I love chop ups. I'd like to do a bit more of that, chop ups with live instruments, and and get a nice cohesive sound out of it.
So I know you mentioned releasing albums and things like that. And we were talking about Urban Lifestyle doing limited amount of gigs. Do you miss that live performance part of it? I kind of pretty well know the answer if we've had conversations before. But would there be a point where you'd want to go out and if you had some success, actually tour doing these tracks live, or do you think it's just that it is within the entity of what it is?
Good question. The other half of Full Circle, I go under the name Triple D, and I'm with Money J, Justin. He would like it just to be a recording band, I think.
Right, okay.
And the thing is, I'm not going to put him in that, throw him under the bus. I kind of feel that way too, because, we're both a bit older. I've never really envisaged doing these gigs, doing this stuff live. Having said that, we're probably going to do some live recordings. Maybe we'll do some podcast type, releases online, live performances.
I suppose hauling your ass around in your mid-50s is probably,
To tell you the truth,
living in a tour bus.
A lot of the stuff that I say on tracks, I'm happy to do it, but I'm not confident enough to do it live. Not because of my inability, but because of the things I'm saying. I don't want to be doing that in public. That's why.
Okay.
That's the key reason.
Right.
Then that's the only reason. It's not because I'm over 50 and I'm finding it difficult. Plus...
But publicity sells, though. Bad publicity, I suppose.
Okay, possibly it is to do with age, because it's not that I don't feel like I'm physically incapable of being able to do that. I just don't feel like mentally I'd put up with it.
Yeah.
I don't like crowds anymore. That's why I pulled out of the cover scene.
Yeah.
Having said that, in the back of my mind, I'm working quite hard on guitar and that. I'm not saying it's a dream or anything, but... or it might be on bass, but there might be a format that I would consider doing live. Some of the Full Circle tracks that I do that I'm happy with, because I have started jamming, once or with yourself and Too Shy, turntable drums, me on bass doing those rhymes. I still love the thought of that, because in my mind, I haven't really seen a good version of that. I've seen big names do these things, like like Premiere, working with musos and those kinds of things. But I never saw anything rhythmically that really, Cut Chemist and those guys, right? And I can't remember his name, who he works with, DJ Shadow, right? Those guys like to do this stuff. I never saw it really gel and work and really push the turntable to, not saying push to its limits, but more than just play a groove,
Yeah.
And not even I'd like to see a juggle, like those executioner guys. I'm mentioning all these underground, bigger, DJs. And it's not like I've got the ego to say, hey, I'm going to do what I haven't seen. It's not like that, but I do believe that I've got certain tastes in music and a group of people like yourself who are like-minded and certain abilities that cross over the music and the turntable thing, and a love for it to know how to communicate with a good DJ like Too Shy to be able for it to manifest. And I would like to see it, and I do in some shape or form possibly at some point see us doing it live, maybe on a Skype type Zoom gig thing.
If you'd like to see more content like this, please hit the like and subscribe buttons.